Welcome to the Theology of Love. I'm your host, Tad Udoni. Today I want to talk about romantic love, but not romantic love in the ordinary way we usually talk about it. So I'm not talking about simple attraction or even chemistry. This is something deeper than even when we find someone who makes us feel wanted or chosen temporarily. I want to talk about what I'm calling divine romantic love. It's the highest form of love between two people that I know can ever exist. You cannot find this kind of framework in textbooks or sacred writings, though I think many traditions point towards pieces of this. The closest that comes to what I'm talking about is agape in Greek. Agape is defined as a chosen, faithful, self-giving love that seeks the good of another. Now this comes close, but I have more nuance to it. So let me explain what I mean more concretely. Most people already know somewhere deep within themselves that love is supposed to be more than possession or need, more than performance, and even more than two people trying to extract feelings from each other. I don't think I'm defining anything completely new here, but I am trying to reflect back something that most of us already know deep within us, but maybe haven't had the words for it yet. So most people don't just want romance. They want to feel chosen. They want to feel seen by one person in a way that makes the noise of the world go quiet for at least a moment. They want someone to truly see them, not only with words, but with presence. Something that says, I see you, I want you, I have chosen you. And that is deeply beautiful to me. I do want to highlight something carefully here. I want to say that divine romantic love can give us a real taste of the presence of God. Let me explain. I also think that this is where many of us get confused, because sometimes the feelings of being chosen can become so powerful that we start asking romantic love to become everything for us. We ask it to heal that part of us that feels broken or alone. We ask it to solve our insecurities and prove our own self-worth. And when we do that, love stops being an offering and starts becoming a demand or a solution that it can never really satisfy fully. This is one of the major distortions of many people's expression of romantic love all throughout history. We take something sacred and we bend it toward the unhealed parts of ourselves. We start saying something like, make me feel loved, make me feel safe, make me feel whole. And of course, in a loving relationship, we should care about each other's feelings. We should want to help each other feel safe and loved. But there's a difference between sharing love and making another human being responsible for the love we have not yet learned to cultivate within ourselves. Real divine love is different for me. It's not two incomplete people trying to complete each other. It's two people whole or sincerely working toward becoming whole who consciously choose to walk this life together. It is a loving covenant of choice. I want to be clear that it's not possession or emotional dependency. It isn't fantasy either. It's a focused expression of the unconditional love that is already present underneath all of existence. It is the way that a couple brings it forth into their relationship. It comes from the energy that created us and the energy that we often call God, or as I like to say, it flows from the ground of all being. It's that essence of what makes us everything in existence good. I also want to say that this very carefully. This is an expression of the unconditional love I talk about in my theology. Unconditional love, as I understand it, is the deepest reality. It's the ground of all being. It's the creative energy underneath existence. It's what we are drawn from. It's the romantic love. Romantic love is a focused human expression of that deeper love between two people who have chosen each other in a unique way. It's one focused stream of the divine that flows between two people. In this flow, unconditional love becomes personal, it becomes embodied, intimate, and steady. We can love humanity, we can love God, we can love our family, our children, our friends, even our animals, and the world around us. But divine romantic love is a focused devotion between two people who have chosen to offer a very specific kind of attention to each other. That's why exclusivity matters in this framework. It's not because of insecurity, not because one person owns the other person, and not because this kind of love is trying to say, you belong to me or you can't be free. That's not divine romantic love. That's possession. Exclusivity matters because attention is finite. Love may be infinite in principle, but expression is finite in practice. As human beings, we only have so much focused energy to offer, so exclusivity is a requisite for this kind of divine romantic love. To clarify, if I want to offer the best and deepest romantic attention I can offer someone, then I can't scatter that attention everywhere. I can't divide the most intimate part of myself endlessly and then pretend I'm still offering the same fullness. There may be many people in this world I can love in different ways, but divine romantic love begins when I consciously choose one person and say, quote, this is where I'm going to focus this part of my love. This is where I'm going to bring my romantic attention, my devotion, my body, my tenderness, and my willingness to walk through life together. That kind of love, in my opinion, doesn't begin with need. It begins with wholeness. And I think that's where modern romance gets so many people into trouble. We've been taught to look for someone who completes us. We've been taught to imagine love as the missing piece. But when we think we need something we don't already possess, we create a rift inside of ourselves that no other person can really fill permanently. So divine romantic love never starts with finding somebody else. It starts by learning to see yourself through the eyes of divine love first. To learn to see yourself beyond circumstance, beyond your performance in this life, beyond your past failures or successes, beyond the human baggage you've placed upon yourself and the person you think you are. It's learning to recognize that there's a spiritual purity within you that is beyond situation and circumstance. It is learning to release the judgment you may have placed on yourself first, so you may then see and feel the pure goodness that is really who you are. That's what I hear expressed in Scripture when it says that human beings are made in the image of God in Genesis 1:26 through 27. I don't hear that as a small idea. I hear that as something deeply profound. We are drawn from a perfection beyond words. We are expressions of something unconditionally loving and loved by this existence. And if we can begin to see that in ourselves, then we can begin to see it in another. Much of what we are able to see in the world is a reflection of what is already going on inside of us. We may not like that, but you can't see clearly what you are not already close to. So we must get closer to this kind of love within ourselves in order to recognize it in the world around us. This is why self-love matters so much, and I don't mean self-love in the shallow sense. I'm not talking about self-indulgence or ego. I mean learning to behold yourself truthfully, to stop reducing yourself to your failures or your body or your relationship history or your wounds or even the ways you didn't perform perfectly in this human experience. It is seeing yourself beyond the ego. If all you ever see is what you think you are, you will limit yourself and others around you, and you will reduce yourself and others to the lowest common denominator in your experience. When you begin to see yourself this way, forgiveness becomes more natural. Not because every choice you made was good, not because every action produced good fruit, but because you stop confusing the mistake with the essence of who you are. You can say, that was something I did. That was something I learned. That was only a part of my journey. That was just what happened to me. And once you learn to stop reducing yourself to your own human baggage, you can stop reducing the person you love to theirs. You can see the divine reflected within them too. You can separate actions from persons. You can still say, I don't agree with this behavior. I don't like what this is producing, but I'm not going to make this behavior the whole truth of who you are. That is a major part of divine romantic love. Acceptance does not mean approval. Acceptance means I accept what is happening in this moment. I accept that you're angry, afraid, reactive, confused, or in pain. But I don't turn that moment into your identity. I don't collapse the whole person into the behavior showing up in this moment. I know you are more than what is going on. You're bigger than what is happening in this moment. And that's very different from how many people fight and argue in relationships today. In immature love, one painful action becomes a label. You're selfish. You're cold. You're impossible. You never care. The person becomes the accusation. And once that happens, love becomes much harder to access because now you're not relating to your partner. Now we're relating to the judgment or to the very limited and inaccurate label we have placed on them. Divine romantic love tries to stay more truthful than that. It can say, this action feels harmful without saying, you are harmful. It can say, this pattern needs attention without saying, you are the problem. That's a more precise and more loving way to approach harm in a relationship. It gives love a better chance to work because the person isn't shaped or shamed into defending their identity. They're being invited to look at the fruit of their actions. It puts the spotlight on the actions or behaviors and not on the person. We always want to preserve the person and critically look at the behaviors. We are in a relationship with the person after all, and we always want to preserve that. Now, this idea of romantic love has been distorted throughout history in many ways. Human beings have always been capable of tenderness. They've always been capable of devotion, beauty, and real affection. So I don't want to pretend that people haven't loved each other. Of course they have. But the way it is expressed and the systems around love have often distorted it. In much of the ancient world, marriage was not primarily about two individuals finding deep emotional fulfillment. It was often tied to family lines, inheritance, children, household stability, and survival. Stephanie Kuntz, a historian of marriage and family, has written about how love-based marriages became central in the West relatively late in history, especially compared to older models that were much more tied to economics, family strategy, and social structure. When we look at the Middle Ages, you get to the tradition of courtly love, where the lover worships the beloved from a distance. There's a beauty and poetry there. There's actually a sense that love might lift a person beyond the ordinary life. Britannica describes courtly love as a medieval code that began with troubadour poetry in southern France around the late 11th century, where the lover often saw himself as serving or even worshiping his lady saint. But even there, we have to be careful. A woman could be idealized, and still not be free. She could be placed on a pedestal and still not be treated as a full equal. Being worshipped in poetry is not the same thing as having agency in life. And this is where I want to be honest, because I don't want to hide some of the pain in history. Much of what history called romantic love was not divine love at all. It was possession, with beautiful language wrapped around it. It was ownership, dressed up as protection. It was patriarchy, calling itself order. In Anglo-American common law, the doctrine of coverture treated a married husband and wife as one legal person. But that legal person was effectively the husband. Britannica explains that under coverture, a married woman's separate legal existence was suspended, and her husband exercised almost exclusive power over property decisions. Now that exclusivity took her agency away and made her a second-class citizen. That matters because when love removes agency, it stops being love in the mature and divine sense. Love cannot say, I honor the divine in you, while also saying you do not have the same freedom, dignity, or voice that I do. These were ideas of possession that got ironed into culture and law, but they were not loving at all. This kind of patriarchy harmed women in ways that are easy to see today. It minimized their voices, it treated their bodies, their labor, and often their sexuality as if they existed under male authority. That pain should not be hidden. These are distortions of love wrapped in ideas of protection and provision. And they have harmed women over the ages, and to some degree still do today. So we must reimagine what love really looks like if we want to evolve and embody this higher form of divine romantic love that I'm talking about. Now, to be fair, I also think patriarchy harmed men in quieter ways. It trained many men to rule when they could have learned to love. It gave them authority in place of intimacy. It taught them to confuse protection with control. And when a man is trained in that way, he may never learn how to fully receive the woman in front of him as an equal expression of the divine. I see many modern men today handicapped by this veil of misunderstanding. They use words and ideas like protection and provision and think that that gives them authority over the women in their lives. Many forget that providing true containership and protection extends to the woman's heart and spirit as well. She must be free to express herself within the bounds of love, but she is autonomous and highly intuitive, and that must be respected too and preserved. It is a lack of true loving vision that some men operate ignoring this. This kind of short-sightedness can leave men underdeveloped in love. They may have power, but not tenderness. They may have authority, but they cannot inspire intimacy. And if the love we offer is also a reflection of how we love ourselves, then this matters deeply. A man who cannot love himself freely may try to create a relationship where control makes him feel safe. But divine romantic love is not control. It has the courage to stand beside another person with enough wholeness that their freedom does not threaten them. And women also have to reimagine love, because many women have been taught to call self-abandonment love. They've been taught to sometimes they have been taught sometimes very subtly at times and sometimes very directly that being loving means becoming smaller or easier, quieter, or more pleasing. But divine romantic love does not ask a woman to disappear. It asks her to remember something deeper about herself and her partner. It asks her to call forth the divine essence within her, to embrace a powerful part of her existence, to be brave enough to see that she is a vital part of the inspiration of divine love, and to love herself first. And that requires a lot of responsibility. When she begins to love herself through the eyes of divine love, it changes what she expects and what she accepts. She no longer has to confuse possession with devotion. She no longer has to confuse being needed with being cherished. She no longer has to give up her agency in order to prove she can be loved. She can stand in a relationship as a whole person, not as someone waiting to be approved of, rescued, owned, or completed. This is why I think the masculine and feminine energies have to be reimagined. And I want to be clear when I say this. I'm not saying divine romantic love only exists between a man and a woman. I don't believe that. Divine romantic love can exist between two men, two women, or a man and a woman. Because what I'm really talking about here are not rigid gender roles. I'm talking about relational energies. Healthy masculine energy is loving containership. It's not control, domination, or even ownership. It's the ability to hold a loving and steady space where the other person feels safe enough to be honest and fully themselves. Healthy feminine energy is procreative, and I don't mean that only in the biological sense of having children. I mean it in the deeper spiritual and relational sense. Feminine energy receives what it is offered in love and gives life back to it. When it feels safe, when it feels honored, and when it knows the other person is genuinely choosing it, it begins to multiply what is being offered. It turns love into warmth, it turns safety into openness, and it turns choice into affection. But these energies don't belong permanently to one gender or one partner. Sometimes one person holds the container, sometimes the other does. Sometimes one person is more expressive, and sometimes the role flips. Divine romantic love allows that movement. It doesn't trap people in rigid roles. It lets love decide what is needed in the moment and allows love to flow as needed. It also matters when we talk about sexuality, because sex is one of the most intimate ways romantic love becomes embodied. It's not the whole relationship, but it can be one of the most powerful tools a couple has for bonding, reconnecting, softening, and remembering each other. Now, Helen Fisher and her colleagues have written about 3 related but distinct systems in human mating and bonding: lust, attraction, and attachment. Their work connects romantic attraction with reward systems in the brain and attachment with bonding processes that help humans form pair bonds. I want to say this with care. Sex should be offered as a gift, not demanded as a debt. No one owes their body to another person. But in romantic love, both people understand that sexuality can be a sacred tool for connection when it is chosen freely, held safely, and practiced with mutual care. I think too many people are careless with their sexuality, and the consequences hurt others as well as harming themselves. We are all free to do as we please in this life, but what I'm saying is if you want a particular kind of relationship, then sex should be handled with loving care and should always be a gift between both people that both people wish to bless one another with. Emotional safety must come first. Sexual intimacy asks a person to open one of the most private and vulnerable parts of themselves. That should never be treated casually or mechanically. It requires trust and care. It requires the deep sense that the person is not merely trying to use my body, satisfy an urge, or get something from me. They're trying to know me. They're trying to honor me. They're trying to share something deeply personal and intimate. Now, once safety is present, each couple should communicate honestly about what they truly want their sexual life to look like. Some couples may need spontaneity, some may need more intentionality. Neither way is automatically more romantic or better. That's left up to the couple to discuss openly and honestly. What matters is whether both people are honest, whether both people feel safe, and whether both are building a sexual life that honors the relationship and each other. Attraction matters too, but attraction cannot carry a lifetime covenant by itself. Attraction can open the door, but it isn't how we appreciate each other that keeps the door open. Attraction is often chemical and happens quickly, but usually you can't rely on that for a lifetime. It is the cultivation of daily appreciation that keeps the light of love shining on a relationship. Over time, the body can get used to what once felt new. The nervous system normalizes what once felt exciting. So if love depends only on attraction, then love becomes vulnerable to novelty, mood, stress, aging, and unmet expectations. However, if you are constantly looking for those things about your partner that you can appreciate, the way they do something, the way they make a funny sound, move a certain way, then you have the making of a wonderful and growing intense relationship that can be filled with divine love. Divine romantic love truly manifests when two people decide to choose appreciation instead of criticism. They learn to look deeply at each other and select aspects about each other that they can appreciate. They can choose to notice what is beautiful, noble, tender, funny, generous, and good in the other person. They don't wait for the other person to perform for them in order to produce a feeling for them. Instead, they become responsible themselves for the way they feel about the one they've chosen. They take control of their own feelings completely, never relinquishing that duty to anything or anyone else. Now, that may be one of the biggest differences between divine romantic love that I know and the most other forms of common love. Common romantic love says, I wait for you to make me feel loved. Divine romantic love says, I cultivate love within myself first and offer it to you freely, and we both receive the benefit of love. This is why conflict looks so different in divine romantic love. Conflict is going to happen, but for divine love, conflict is not a battlefield. It's a doorway into deeper knowing. It's not a way to conquer the other person or force them into a performance that isn't authentic to who they are. Conflict becomes a way to ask, who is this person I've chosen? What wound is being touched here? What are they trying to show me, even if they don't have words yet? That doesn't mean conflict is pleasant. It doesn't mean that every argument is automatically beautiful. But if both people are doing the inner work, conflict can become a very deep discovery process and a mirror that reflects the deepest parts of ourselves in a safe space. It can reveal where fear or insecurity are raising their heads. It can also show where one person is trying to make the other person responsible for something that needs to be healed within themselves. And in the end, it can help two people learn more about the deepest parts of themselves. And when one person feels a void, divine romantic love doesn't say, that's your problem, go deal with it alone. But it also doesn't say, your void is mine to fill. It says something more loving and more honest. It says, I'm here with you. I hold space and comfort you. I can help you breathe, but I cannot become the whole filler for you. Comfort like this can often provide some breathing room for the inner work to be done, but it does not replace the inner work for the partner. It can become an extra support structure when things fall apart, or offer space when needed for a person to become steady once again in a relationship. This is why I call divine romantic love a covenant of choice. It's more profound than a promise. A promise can sometimes sound like an obligation. This is deeper than an obligation. It is when two people intentionally tie their lives together and say, I choose to walk this life with you, not because either one of you is incomplete without the other, but because together they can help each other grow, heal, and reveal the truth of who we each are. And I think this is a beautiful kind of loving synergy. We can all do this work alone, and in many ways, we still must. But together, when we have a partner like this, if love is divine and freely offered, they can do it with more support. We can do it with a loving mirror. We can do it with someone who sees the distortions but still remembers our soul. We simply have a consistent and a reliable tool to help us manage this thing that we call our life of remembering who we are at the deepest level. And this kind of tying together is not ownership. It's a choice. That is what makes it sacred. The gift, it gives security because both people know the relationship is not being held together by a mood or attraction or convenience or perfect circumstances. But it also gives agency because love is still freely chosen. Nobody is possessed, nobody is trapped, and nobody is erased. Divine romantic love is saying, I choose you and I choose the mystery of who you are becoming. It does not choose only the version of you it first understood. It chooses the unfolding. It knows that people are dynamic by nature. They change and they grow. Their bodies change, their desires change, their fears change, their hopes change. And divine romantic love does not treat that as betrayal. It treats it as a part of being alive. And it walks confidently and eagerly into that mystery. It wants and embraces the discovery process of knowing someone piece by piece in this life. So the question is not, how do I keep you the same? The question is, how do I keep knowing you as you become more? Divine love approaches love as a type of inquiry. This type of love is a kind of sacred devotion to curiosity. And this kind of love does not change its mind every time conditions change. It has new beginnings. It keeps becoming new because people inside it keep becoming new. The covenant of love says, we will learn each other again and again. We will begin again and again. Now, I want to say something intentionally here, intentionally personal here. I have misunderstood love in my own life too. I have loved people. I have let love slip away from me. I have had to learn through loss, reflection, and sometimes a lot of pain. And I do not say this to blame anyone from my past. I still love them all. My past lovers, all of whom are on their own spiritual paths, just like I'm on mine. And I deeply respect that. It's not my job to reprimand them, correct them, or turn my story into an accusation against theirs. The only life I'm truly responsible for is my own. So when I talk about divine romantic love, I'm not speaking as someone who has always understood it perfectly. I'm speaking as someone who has had to look honestly at himself and ask what life and love is trying to teach me. I take full responsibility for the love I have co-created in my life and lost. And I do mean co-created because love is never only one person. Every relationship has two lives moving inside of it. Each couple has two histories, two sets of wounds, and two ways of seeing the world. So when I say I take responsibility, I'm not saying everything was my fault, but I am saying I'm responsible for the love I cultivated. And I'm also for the love I didn't know how to cultivate at the time. And this doesn't only apply to romantic love. It applies to all of the people in my life that I love. My mother, my brother, my daughter, and the women I've loved, and the people who have walked beside me in different seasons of my life. I can't control who they became, what they chose, or how they understood love. But I can be honest about who I was inside of those relationships. This is part of the reason why I see divine romantic love differently now. I no longer want to make another person responsible for the love I experience. I want to become the kind of person who can cultivate love clearly, offer it freely, receive it gratefully, and honor it when it appears in another person. That's the only kind of love I want in my life now. Most people want the purity of divine love, or at least they want the evidence of it. They want to be loved that way. They want to feel the fruit of it. They want to be loved the way that we imagine God loves us. They want to be seen beneath all the human baggage. They want to be chosen without being possessed. And they want to be safe without being controlled. But most of these people have only been trained in distortions of love. They've learned to extract love instead of offering it. They've learned to make another person responsible for their emotional state, treating romantic love like a caged canary, forcing the bird to sing from inside the bars of a cage, never understanding why it rarely wants to sing. Divine romantic love wants the beloved to sing because they're free. And this is where the whole thing becomes reimagination of love itself. We have to stop seeing love as something we are trying to extract from another person and begin to see it as something already present within us, within them, and between us. Love does not always arrive as a feeling on demand. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's hidden under stress, fatigue, fear, or the ordinary weight of life. But that doesn't mean it's gone. This kind of love hovers over a relationship, waiting for the moment when two people are open enough to recognize it and allow it to flow freely once again. And that is part of the divine mystery. Divine romantic love does not demand constant evidence. It trusts the deeper choice. And when those beautiful moments do appear, when tenderness returns, when desire opens, when laughter comes, when the other person looks at you and you feel seen again, those moments become gifts. They're like little treasures sprinkled along the path of life. We can't demand the sprinkling, but we can cherish it when it comes. I want to end this like this. Divine romantic love is beautiful because of its purity and agency in a relationship. I hope people experience it. I hope they find someone who sees them, who chooses them, honors them, and walks beside them with the kind of sacred devotion. But your life is not incomplete if that doesn't happen yet, or even if it never happens in the way that I'm imagining. But if you seek this kind of love, this kind of self-love, then I'm confident that you will still reap the eternal rewards of this kind of love. However, divine romantic love can help us remember our deepest parts of ourselves by becoming a mirror that is honest and loving at the same time. This kind of covenant walks beside us through the mystery of our lives unfolding. But our partners who show this kind of love are not the source of this love. They are a focus point. They do not fill the holes of our lives. They can reveal, they can offer space to catch our breath when we need it, but they cannot take the place of the real work of discovering who we are. When we can see ourselves through the eyes of divine love, ourselves and our partners, I think we get closer to understanding who we really are in the deepest way. We get closer to knowing what we call God. We are here to remember the deepest aspects of ourselves. We are here to feel the source that flows through us. We are here to see truth of our existence and to know that we are not separate from it. Divine romantic love is one beautiful way to practice that remembering with another person. And this kind of remembering belongs to all of us. It's the greatest gift I know in this life, to remember the flow of unconditional love more fully within us. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this gave you something to reflect on, something to question, and maybe something to remember in yourself. Now, if this speaks to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you know someone who is reimagining love, relationships, or what it means to walk through life with another person, please share this with them. And as always, you are loved, you are sacred, and you are already more whole than the world taught you to believe. Thank you for listening to the Theology of Love. I'm your host, Tad Denoy, and I will see you soon.